Aging isn't broken hardware, it's corrupted software. And scientists just discovered the biological backup file hidden inside your cells. What if everything you've been told about aging, decline, and getting old is not just incomplete, but fundamentally wrong? Here's where it gets weird, because old cells don't forget youth, they quietly remember it. If aging is a software problem, then maybe it's something scientists can actually repair. That single idea changes everything, from blindness and frailty to diseases we once thought were permanent. And for decades, this idea didn't inspire hope. It quietly terrified the scientific community. What if your cells never truly age? They just slowly lose the instructions that keep them working properly. It's like a phone that slows down, not because it's broken, but because its software is corrupted. And if that's true, aging might not be permanent. It might actually be reversible. In this video, you'll see how scientists tested this radical idea inside real living animals. They didn't just slow aging down, they pushed biological age backward. They restored vision in blind mice and repaired organs that were already failing. One future treats aging like a disease we diagnose, manage, and eventually cure. The other fears a world where humans stop aging and society isn't ready. This is the science forcing humanity to decide which future it wants. To understand this discovery, we first need to talk about something called epigenetics in plain language. Your DNA is like a cookbook, but epigenetics decides which recipes actually get used. Every cell has the same cookbook, but different instructions turned on or off. Those on-off switches tell cells how to behave, repair damage, and stay young. Aging begins when those switches slowly lose their original positions. Most people think aging happens because DNA breaks beyond repair. But surprisingly, most of your DNA remains intact even in old age. So aging isn't pages torn out of the book, it's scrambled bookmarks. The information is still there. Cells just can't read it correctly anymore. This idea was radical because it meant aging wasn't permanent damage. Think of it like a house with faulty wiring, not a collapsed foundation. Fix the wiring, and suddenly the whole house works again. But scientists didn't know how to safely reset those cellular switches, because resetting cells incorrectly can cause cancer or chaos. So for decades, the idea stayed theoretical, not practical, until one accidental discovery changed everything. It started with 4 proteins discovered years earlier. They were originally meant to turn adult cells back into stem cells. But nobody thought they could be used partially, like a dimmer switch. That assumption was the barrier holding aging research back. Here's where David Sinclair's team asked a dangerous question. What if we didn't fully reset cells, just nudge them backward? Like restoring a computer to last week's settings, not factory reset. It sounded risky, but the logic was elegant. And if it worked, aging research would never be the same again. Every scientific revolution has a moment where one person refuses to accept the obvious answer. For aging research, that person was David Sinclair at Harvard Medical School. Sinclair didn't believe aging was just damage piling up over time. He suspected something more subtle was happening beneath the surface. That suspicion came from years of studying how cells respond to stress. Time and again, cells survive damage that should have destroyed them, which raised a troubling question scientists couldn't ignore. If cells can fix damage, why do bodies still age? The answer seemed to point back to information, not destruction. But proposing that idea invited skepticism, and sometimes outright ridicule. Funding was hard to secure for something that challenged decades of belief. Still, Sinclair kept pushing, because the data wouldn't let him stop. Then, an unexpected discovery from another field opened a door. In 2006, researchers found 4 proteins that could rewind cell identity. They were called Yamanaka factors, and they stunned biology. Used fully, they erased a cell's identity, turning it back into a stem cell. But that process also destroyed the cell's original function, so no one considered them useful for treating aging. Until Sinclair asked a dangerous question nobody else wanted to ask. What if we use just enough reprogramming to reset age, not identity? Testing this idea meant stepping into territory biology had never safely explored before. The goal was simple to say, but terrifying to try. Reset the epigenome without erasing what makes a cell itself. Think of it like rebooting a computer without deleting your files. That meant delivering Yamanaka factors carefully, gently, and briefly. Too much reprogramming would wipe identity and cause tumors. Too little would do absolutely nothing. So the team treated timing like a dimmer switch, not an on-off button. They programmed the factors to turn on, then shut themselves off. This was partial reprogramming, and it had never been proven safe. The first test wasn't about living longer, it was about seeing again. Older mice had lost vision because nerve cells had stopped communicating. After treatment, something unexpected started to happen. Those nerve cells didn't regrow, they remembered how to work. It was like reconnecting old wires instead of installing new ones. Blind mice began responding to visual cues again. The biological clock in their eyes had moved backward. Then the team tested a completely different organ, the kidneys. Aging kidneys lose structure and filtering precision. After partial reprogramming, those structures rebuilt themselves. Markers of kidney aging dropped dramatically. This wasn't slowing decline, it was reversing biological age. And this is the part nobody expected to see. The mice didn't lose identity, didn't form tumors, and stayed stable. For the first time, aging looked reversible without breaking biology. When these results appeared, the reaction wasn't celebration, it was disbelief. Because extraordinary claims demand extraordinary verification. Independent labs began repeating the experiments step by careful step, and the same pattern kept showing up again. Aging markers dropped, function returned, and identity stayed intact. This shifted aging from philosophy into something measurable and treatable. For the first time, age became a variable, not a destiny. That single change rewrote decades of medical assumptions. It suggested we could treat aging the way we treat cholesterol or blood pressure. Not immortality, but extended health and independence. That's where human clinical trials enter the conversation. Early trials focus on restoring vision, not extending lifespan. Because vision loss is measurable, ethical, and urgently needed. Success there would open doors to muscles, immune systems, and organs. Step by step, not overnight. Entire industries are already watching very closely. Biotechnology, healthcare, insurance, and retirement planning. If people stay healthier longer, everything from careers to caregiving changes. Healthcare could shift from managing decline to maintaining function. And economies built around aging would need to adapt. But every powerful tool brings serious questions with it. Who gets access first, and who gets left behind? What happens if lifespan increases faster than society adapts? And how much control should humans have over their biological clocks? These questions push the science into ethics and responsibility. Before this science moves any further, researchers agree on one thing. Reprogramming biology is powerful, but it's not harmless. Reset cells too far, and identity can be lost. Push too hard, and uncontrolled growth becomes a real danger. That's why this approach demands extreme precision and restraint. This isn't a treatment you rush to market. It's one you test, limit, and monitor relentlessly. Because the goal isn't youth at any cost. It's preserving function without creating new harm. That balance is where ethics becomes just as important as science. Who decides when intervention is appropriate? How do we ensure access doesn't become inequality? And how do we prevent misuse before it happens? These questions don't slow progress, they guide it. Because this discovery reframes aging as something biology can understand. And possibly, one day, something medicine can carefully treat. If you want to follow the science shaping that future, subscribe to Behind the Breakthroughs.